Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming in so early, but we've got a full agenda here today, so we're going to get started. Our first bill of the day is SB 647, Law Enforcement Officers Pension System and State Police Retirement System, Line of Duty Catastrophic Injury Disability.
Morning, Madam Chair.
Morning.
Distinguished members of the committee. Senator Jack Bailey representing St. Mary's and Calvert County. District 29. Happy to be here. I didn't realize you guys were all coming up right to start with.
Sorry.
You know what I mean? I appreciate it. You know. So we always appreciate the support, especially from our law enforcement officers, you know. This bill will provide a line of duty disability allowance to be paid to a member of the law enforcement officers pension system or state police retirement system who is found to be disabled and unable to engage in any substantial gainful activity. Under current law, a member of one of these pension systems who is disabled in the line of duty can receive an allowance to 2/3 of their compensation at the time of the injury. We've been working on this for about 3 years, and we worked with Joint Chairman's report, and we requested that the State Retirement Agency report on how Maryland could award a special and accidental disability benefit for a catastrophic injury that results in a member of these two pension systems being unable to work in any capacity equal to 100% of the member's annual compensation at the time the injury occurred. This Senate bill, after 3 years of work, is intended to accomplish this objective and provide this benefit. I want to give a big shout out, obviously, to Ann and our council who has worked with me on this. And you know that currently you get a 66 2/3 benefit, and that's intended to account for the fact that about 1/3 of the individual's paychecks would be taxed otherwise. However, what happens is if somebody gets catastrophically injured, they actually don't get the same amount of money because we did not, when the original law came up, it did not account for the fact that the paycheck deductions that many of us are familiar with, this does not apply to health care. So they get hurt catastrophically in the line of duty, and then they can't make the same bills that they were making before. Providing this benefit to our police who have been catastrophically injured in the line of duty will ensure that their income can continue to cover their cost of living and that their disability does not result in an effective reduction in the amount of income they receive. This bill will support the officers who have become catastrophically injured in the line of duty while protecting the residents of the state. I know that this subcommittee understands the importance of ensuring that our state takes care of the brave men and women who work to keep Maryland safe. I am submitting an amendment that makes this bill provision consistent with each system. I respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 647. I thank you for your consideration. I turn this over to Ann.
So I'm here to answer questions. State Retirement is not taking any position on this bill, but I did want to thank Senator Bailey for reaching out to the agency and hearing our concerns with the bill and making the changes that we needed to make the bill workable for us.
Okay.
Yeah. Good morning. I'm Brian Gill. I am the president of State Law Enforcement Officers Labor Alliance, the exclusive representative for about 1,700 active sworn law enforcement officers in the state, including Maryland State Police, Natural Resources Police, Fire Marshal, Maryland Capitol Police, and more. SIL is right in support of Senate Bill 647. Because every day law enforcement officers across Maryland put their lives on the line to protect the community. Unfortunately, the nature of the work can lead to serious injury and permanent incapacity of these officers. Despite the dangers, officers are expected to return to their duties or transition to retirement without adequate support if they are injured in the line of duty. Currently, the law enforcement officers' pension system and the state police retirement system provide retirement benefits to those who are incapacitated due to work-related injuries. However, these benefits are often do not fully reflect the gravity of the injuries or the extent of disability sustained. By ensuring, Senate Bill 647 proposes a vital important to ensure that law enforcement officers who suffer a catastrophic injury that prevent them from engaging in substantial gainful activity will be compensated appropriately. That's why state law enforcement officers, Labor Alliance would respect a favorable report for this.
Good morning, committee. My name is Dave Lewis. I'm a first sergeant with the state police, and I'm currently the vice president of SLELA. And out of respect for everyone's time, I am a Me Too.
Thank you. Good name. My favorite nephew is David Lewis. Any questions?
I'm sorry.
Senator Hettleman.
I'm not getting it. Can you tell me, explain, because it seems logical to me that somebody who's experiencing a line of duty catastrophic injury would be covered now. So what do they get now and what do they get under the bill?
So if somebody, let's say they are working and they're getting their 100% of their paycheck, today, a catastrophic injury happens. They can never work again. They get 66 2/3 of their pay is what happens. But the issue is because of the added deductions that come out of their pay, they get much less than the 66 2/3. We just, when we initially set it up, everybody set it up to say, well, they're going to get the same pay. And if that was the case, that they were getting the same pay, then we wouldn't need this bill, right? And so what this does, but this does not affect, this is a very small portion. This is if they're catastrophically injured. Because let's say, you're in a relationship, you have children, whatever, you're dependent on that one salary, right, to make your bills. Now, all of a sudden, you're catastrophically injured. Now you have a deficit coming from that one issue, and you can't ever work again, right? So now it's creating a hardship on those few people. But I think when you look at the fiscal note, it says that this would be for such a small amount of people every year that they do not. It says that no discernible effect on local government, and they said in state retirement can likely implement the bill with existing budgeted resources. Does that clear it up?
So they're not getting the 66% and 2/3. They're getting 100%?
That's what the bill wants to do.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Our next bill is Senate Bill 654, State Police Retirement System, Mandatory Retirement Age Alteration. Senator Augustine.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Lewis Young and members of the Pensions Subcommittee. Senator Malcolm Augustine here in support of Senate Bill 654, State Police Retirement System, Mandatory Retirement Age Alteration. Colleagues, this is a new space, new area for me. I'll readily admit that. But when my former colleague comes and asked me to be supportive of something that can support the state police, I listen, of course. We all really do listen to that. And what was shared with me, and then I asked for the data on that, is that we, right now, as it relates to our sworn officers for Maryland State Police, we have an issue with vacancies. And there's a recovery that's happening now, which is good. It's gone down over the last couple of years here, but we still have a significant issue with vacancies. And so what this bill does is it helps to get us through that transition by allowing for officers to, in essence, continue to serve for an additional 2 years, raising the required retirement age for officers by an additional 2 years. Helps with the transition as we continue to work very hard to bring in new sworn officers, which we know is an important thing, but we do have this problem right now. And so that really is what this is about. This is about keeping our force as strong as it can be while we continue to work hard to recruit and fill in the vacancies. And I would just ask for a favorable report on this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the senator? No?
Okay.
Thank you. I believe we have one unfavorable. Mr. Gill?
Good morning, ma'am. Brian Gill, I'm the president of State Law Enforcement Officers Labor Alliance. The officers, including the Maryland State Police, we are in right in opposition of Senate Bill 654. SLEOLA, as we're known, surveyed its membership regarding the mandatory age retirement, and a majority of our members expressed opposition to raising the mandatory from 62 from 60. The current mandatory retirement age facilitates the opportunities for younger applicants to join the department, thereby introducing fresh perspectives, energy, and a greater adaptability to new technologies evolving through police strategies. The department must continuously adapt to address the shifts in public concerns, crime trends, and technology. A younger workforce ensures the department remains dynamic and responsive to these challenges. Furthermore, the renewal in the workforce promotes diversity, inclusive, as younger applicants often reflect contemporary social and cultural trends. The younger segment of the workforce will also continue to contribute to the retirement system as troopers cease to pay into the retirement system after 28 years of service. There's also states in this region that have a very similar, we actually have one of the older mandatory retirement age, as in Delaware and New Jersey said a mandatory retirement age is 55. New York State and Pennsylvania also have an age of 60. And federal government employees, they have a mandatory retirement age of around 57, depending on the thing. Depending on what law enforcement, federal Capitol Police is 57. That's why SLEOLA urges the committee to give an unfavorable report for Senate Bill 654.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
All right, good morning. Dave Lewis again, Vice President of SLEOLA. I am here in opposition to this bill. I do appreciate people's interest in our retention. It is a problem. We just want to make that clear. We do have a huge problem. We can bring up the obvious things with age, though. We don't want to admit it, but as we get older, our reflexes slow, our strength goes down, our reaction time gets diminished. These are just unfortunate things that happen with aging. Currently, right now, I'm in the 22-year pension. The new guys are in a 25-year pension. You guys give us the ability to have an enhanced pension. We pay more up front, but we get a quicker pension. We fear that if we keep pushing back our age, you guys could include us with like the regular other state employees who have a 30-year pension, and this would defeat the purpose of having younger guys do this job and giving us a reduced pension. In 2019, the U.S. Government Accountability Office looked into raising the retirement age of the Capitol Police. They're currently 57. They looked at making it 60. OPM officials came back and they said that if the mandatory age was increased, the original rationale behind why officers should pay a higher deduction and receive enhanced benefits, such as us, would be undermined in this situation, and they did not move forward. Another issue we have is I don't believe the department put in this bill, and us as the union didn't put in this bill. I believe that the department and us should work together to try to find some new ways to support retention. We've had a lot of resignations. In 2022, we had 29 resignations. In 2023, we had 21. In 2024, we had 20. So I think we need to look at some other reasons of why people are leaving and not just age. The amount of people that leave due to 60 is very small. Most people leave our agency when they reach the end of the drop. The drop is a great tool. It's the reason some of us are actually still here. If we didn't have the drop, Brian and I would be retired already. So this doesn't affect the drop. There's a lot of guys who timed their drop knowing when they're going to turn 60. And if they move it to 62, they're all going to leave before 60 anyway because they went into the drop before this bill. So this is not going to keep, I think we have 177 employees in the drop. Not one of them will be able to take advantage of this because they signed up and they're going to have to leave at the end. So if we raise it to 62, none of them would be included. This is only going to help a handful who came on later in life, which we still encourage, who don't have the ability to go in a drop. So we just think that if the union and the state police could get together, we could probably find some other ways for retention. And I ask for an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Bailey, I see you have a question.
I do, and I took advantage of the drop. And so when you went in and you signed up knowing that your final date was the final date.
Yes.
And absolutely nothing you could do could change that. It was, 2 or 3 long paragraphs that you had to read and initial and everything like that. And so how would this affect people that know their end date?
So myself, my end date is 2032. I will leave at 55 years old, whether the age thing moves or not. The only way I can stay longer is increasing the drop.
So would this enhance your drop?
No, sir.
This won't change the drop at all. It'll only help. It's only going to help most people who came on later in life. Like when guys join at like 40, which is perfectly fine. I had guys in my class who are 40, so they don't have enough time on to really reach the full retirement. They were going to age out, so they could stay the extra 2 years because they couldn't do the drop. But majority of people go into the drop, stay for that period of time, and then leave.
And those in the drop, unless changes come to the drop itself, it doesn't affect them at all.
And my last question was, did you make reference to the fact that there's been no negotiations or discussions between the union about this? Did you guys work to get towards this bill or no?
No, sir. We weren't even aware of it.
We were discussed previously with another member. It didn't go through, and it came up last year as well. And the agency was actually against it last year. So nothing this year, no.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to Senator Quarterman with SB 710, Correctional Officers Retirement System, Reemployment After Retirement, Exemption from Earnings Offset.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. For the record, Senator Paul Quarterman, representing District 2, Washington and Frederick counties. Senate Bill 710 removes an unnecessary barrier that prevents experienced state retirees from returning to work in public service. The bill will exempt retired correctional officers from the limitation in retirement allowances for individuals to return to employment with a participating employer. The bill makes it possible for skilled, knowledgeable professionals to step back into the workforce without being financially penalized. At a time when many agencies face staffing shortages and institutional experience gaps, this is a practical and timely solution. The bill provides balance to retirees by allowing them to receive the benefits that they have earned, strengthens the workforce, and helps government operate more efficiently. You're going to hear from a constituent of ours who brought this matter to us. I think folks on this committee are probably aware of the limitations cap that's been discussed in the past. This is very narrow, related directly to corrections. Madam Chair, as you know, in our part of the state, there's 3 correctional facilities in my district. There's 2 more to the west of us. We have a tremendous workforce in those facilities. And then when they retire, there's other opportunities, particularly in state government, for them to participate in. And right now, this is preventing that. Again, you're going to hear from Mr. Partlow here of his experience and subsequently what has happened. The physical note is quite interesting, to be honest with you. We brought Ann with us here. I'm sure she can comment on that to a particular point. I've also talked with our analysts here on the committee already as well. And just from my take of it, I obviously I'm not a physical analyst, but I would challenge it, to be honest with you, because from a high level, if you just look at it, an individual works, they've earned their retirement, and they've retired. So that job they're going to go into, regardless of who that is, whether it's a state employee or a brand new employee, that person still needs to fulfill that job. And so I don't understand how they come up with the actuary, I think is what they call it, and they're making a lot of assumptions. They're assuming that all these people are going to get jobs. They're assuming that all these people are going to go back to their previous job, which quite frankly now I believe we've already carved out that exemption already, and pretty much nobody does that. When I'm talking about corrections, particularly like if you work in corrections, you can retire and you can come back to corrections because the need is there. We made that exemption a while back, and no one really takes. I mean, the note indicates I think just a handful of people have done that. So I don't think the physical note is anywhere close to the actual reality of what the situation would be or could be. So with that, I'm going to allow Mr. Partlow to speak here, and obviously Ann is here as well to answer any particular questions may be. We did reach out to the department over the interim and had many conversations throughout this. The original intent was to do it across the board. Mr. Partlow came to us a particular situation in our district, but the original intent was to potentially look at it for everybody. But the understanding that may be too much to do at one time, we focus just on this one narrow employee group, which would be corrections. So with that, folks, I appreciate the time and would respectfully ask for a favorable report.
Good morning, Madam Chair, rest of the committee. Thank you for taking the time to hear me. My name is Jason Partlow. I'm a retired correctional officer, lieutenant. I am currently employed as lead bailiff at Washington County District Court. I retired from corrections with 20 years of service, and I've been employed with the district court for 3 years. I'm not here representing the Maryland Judiciary or any other agency. I am representing myself during this hearing. I'm currently under the earnings limitations to the correctional pension system for the first 5 years. If I would have retired through the corrections pension system for the first, I would have retired, reapplied, and accepted a contractual position with the corrections, there would not have been an earnings limitation. But since I took a contractual spot within another Maryland agency, I'm restricted on what I'm allowed to earn. I started working part-time at the district court because of the limitation, and after 6 months from the job, we started losing people. And at the time, we wasn't able to find qualified candidates, or they wasn't applying, more like it. I started to pick up hours to assist, just to make sure we had coverage, make sure everything was taken care of, everything was safe. And after the first year, actually my second year, I was penalized, and I'm having $255 taken out of each one of my pension checks. I believe if the limitation is changed or lifted, this will assist in filling the vacancies throughout the state, qualified people. I have served my community for 23 years now and would like to continue to work full-time, but without the limitation. Thank you for your time.
Your testimony. And Ms. Gothrop, you're here just for questions, correct? Mm-hmm. Does anyone have a question? Senator Heddleman.
I've learned that there is a shortage of bailiffs in our courthouses, which I didn't know until this year. I'm just curious why you're a contractual worker rather than a non-contractual worker.
All the bailiffs within the district courts in Maryland are all contractual employees. Most of them are all retired police officers or corrections in some aspect, but mostly the retired law enforcement. There's no pins for us other than the contractual pins. So there's no state benefits other than, there's limited time off, paid time off, and there's not another pension. There's no health care unless we buy into it ourselves. So there's not any other perk other than the actual earnings.
Gotcha. You reminded me that I think is going to change. There was something actually in the budget analysis in the judiciary. They are going to have 35 pins or so for bailiffs coming up. It's small, but it's something.
Yeah.
We're also getting ready to grow in Washington County as well. That their courtroom's getting ready to be built up there. So
Right.
we're going to end up adding at least 2 more. So the growth is there, and I know there's other areas within the state that are actually short as well. So
Right. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I have a question. Given the fiscal note, it is a cause for concern. So my question is really twofold. One, is there an opportunity to target this bill more effectively? And the second question is, could we look at an actuarial analysis to better project the costs? Because I know, Senator, you have some concerns about the fiscal note.
No, and I appreciate the question, Madam Chair, and quite frankly, respectfully, but my concern more with the fiscal note is I don't believe it. And I'm just being honest. And I think, I've talked to some other members of this room. It's making assumptions that every single person that retires is going to go back and take their old job back. And that's not the reality. We've already made that exception for corrections to go back to corrections, and they don't do that. And so, yeah, do they project that because it's like a doomsday worst case scenario? And and as you know, your liability isn't what the cost is. That's what your exposure is, because of all those people, I guess, technically did that. That's potentially could be the exposure. At the same time, particularly in this narrow situation, as Mr. Partlow just said, and I appreciate the Senator for Baltimore County's question, we're not even paying any more benefits. He's just getting paid just straight hours. And so it doesn't make any sense of why he has an earnings limitation. We're actually taking money back from him when he's not even getting benefits. He's not getting, any of that stuff. And so I take umbrage with the note itself, just because I don't think it's even remotely close to being accurate of what the reality is. And I'm happy to work, obviously, with the committee, and I appreciate your suggestion, because I do want to find a way to actually, make this work, because the realities of what is happening in the real world and what's in that fiscal note are not, they're night and day. It's not even close to being the same.
We have some more questions. Senator Bailey?
I didn't know.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to try to figure this out.
Yep.
Okay, so if you're working, there's a vacancy. They decide to fill the vacancy contractually. If they hire somebody off the street, that person would get paid the full salary.
You want to answer that one?
If they hire someone off the street and it's a permanent full-time position, that person is going to get the full salary. They're going to be enrolled in the pension system. State contributions are going to be made on behalf of that person. Health care, everything goes along with that person. As a contractual person, there aren't any of those additional costs.
So, Ann, if you could just stay there for a minute. So as far as the money goes for the state, we've already paid that for him in his pension and everything else. So the cost of hiring him and just paying an hourly salary for him to work seems to me like it would completely save us money to be able to do that.
It does, and I think what the fiscal note is saying is, and Senator Quarterman was talking about this, is that it assumes everyone is going to retire, but what it's going on to say is everyone's going to retire as soon as they hit 20 years. They're not going to work beyond 20. They're going to retire at 20 so that they can come right back, get another job, and get basically, a 30% increase in salary overnight. What we have seen, with the exception that you all provided for correctional officers, and I need to state from the outset, we are not taking a position on the bill. I'm just explaining to you what the statistics we see in our agency, is that the exception that was included for correctional officers, I think we've had 3 people come back. I can't remember what the fiscal note says, but it's a very small number since that exception was put in. The reason that is because when you come back as a correctional officer to a correctional officer position, the risk of getting injured you're already receiving a service retirement allowance. So you're not entitled to, if something were to happen to you as a reemployed retiree, you would not get a disability retirement because you're already receiving a service retirement. Your family, if you were to be killed on the job, your family would just get the survivorship benefits from your service retirement allowance and not line of duty disability, or not line of duty death benefits. So or if your bill were to pass, well, your bill is not for correctional officers, but there's no catastrophic injury disability for them. So the point is, it is too dangerous. The risk is too high. And I'm speaking anecdotally from what I've heard from the unions. This is why correctional officers are not taking advantage of this reemployment. They don't want to come back because it is too dangerous and the risk is too high to their families and further support.
I thank you for those questions, and I just wanted to say I appreciate you coming back. You seeing the need, and I don't think we can put a value on the experience that you have rather than hiring somebody off the street that costs much more money. Senator, I appreciate it, and I think it's a very common sense bill.
Thank you.
Senator Sallings.
No, thank you. Just 2 points, because we've seen physical notes, and the problem that we've had with them, especially the ones we have for our military pensions or military credits, we're trying to help out for property tax. And it's very narrow. They don't look at the overall. Right. And I think it's a major problem in how they come to be. So I believe this is just one of the examples of how I think some of these things need to be better corrected for the benefit that of the overall. It's going to be more of a benefit to help an employee. And then I'm hoping we can go right along with my chairwoman in pensions, I'm sorry, in public safety, that we could get PINs. I believe that would make the difference, because from what I'm hearing, it's a benefit overall for the state to have the PINs for these positions, and not contracted. We're losing money, and we're tightening our belt as much as we can right now, and we're not in a good place. So I think it's something that maybe, Madam Chair, we can look into, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Senator Hedelman, did you have a question?
Actually, I do have a quick question. So if we do this, are there any other exceptions except the one that you mentioned with correctional officers in other retirement plans that are similar to this?
So in corrections, there's even another exception for parole and probation to come back. No one in parole and probation has ever taken advantage of that exception. In the employee system, you can come back as for MDH and work as retired nurses or physicians, I believe, can get exemptions. There are general exemptions if you're gone, after 5 years, you're no longer subject to the earnings limitation. If your AFC is below a certain amount, you're not subject to the earnings limitation. The teachers are the ones that really have a huge reemployment program, and that's if you come back to a troubled school or you come back teaching in an area of critical shortage, then you're not subject to the earnings limitation. Yeah, I think
That's
that was
helpful.
it.
So we're not breaking new ground
Oh,
here by
also,
any means. Okay.
LEOPS do not have, the law enforcement system has no earnings limitation, and state police, I believe, has an earnings limitation only if you come back as a trooper. So if you come back as a civilian working for state police, you are not subject to an earnings limitation. So it's all over the board. Oh, and judges, you can come back as a recalled judge, and legislators don't have any earnings limitation.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Senator Augustine.
Just 2 things. You're a part of the state pension, right?
I work for the State Retirement Agency,
Yeah,
yes.
the state retirement agency, who were consulted in the writing of the fiscal note.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we level set on like who participates in writing our nonpartisan fiscal notes, as we have having this level of conversation around there. You are given an opportunity to participate.
Yeah, I submit information. So the information I'm able to provide is statistics as to, how many people have, like, for instance, I let the fiscal note writer know that no one has returned to work under parole and probation, and I gave them the numbers who have all of those statistics.
Well,
However,
I understand. I'm just talking about the discussions about the
actual cost to it.
No, about the validity of it, and just sitting here and hearing this conversation around the validity of it when the people who are charged with managing these processes, including yourself, are the ones, like for the public to understand, are the ones who help to have these things written. That's all that I was trying to say. So that's step one. The second question that I have for you all is, we're going to talk about this bill. Is there a concern that you have folks who are older who, may have a degradation in their physical ability and stuff like that for these positions by bringing them back?
Well, when I started 3 years ago, I was informed that the average age of a bailiff already was 72 years old. So at that point in time, as you've heard from other testimony from other bills, that as we get older, we do slow down. But since I've started, we've had an influx of some younger people. And with that being said, a lot of times when we retire at 20 years, because the age for corrections has fluctuated from 18 to 21 over the last 15 to 20 years, the starting age. And a lot of times guys do run out at 20 years, as I did. I left at 20. It was time for me to have a change in life, and I've seen the ability to go work daylight, Monday through Friday, weekends and holidays off, which was the perks I was looking for my family. Mm-hmm. So I took it upon myself to make that change. It was time for me to move on.
Okay, fair enough. And so also, I just wonder about why we're talking about corrections, which is a very, would you agree, is very different, dangerous situation than that of a bailiff? With those two, how are those equivalent? As far as whether or not someone who would not, participate in the program. Again, going back to why this may be a little bit more legitimate.
Well, the danger aspect's definitely there, no matter where you're at, especially when we're carrying firearms.
Corrections versus bailiff?
Yes.
It's the same?
To a point. You're still dealing with incarcerated people coming through the side doors, coming from lockup, even though they're in the custody of somebody else.
Okay.
If something happens, we have to deal with it. Something happens in the gallery, we've had fights and, we've had multiple threats. We actually, I know it wasn't district court, but it was circuit court. We had a judge murdered up there in Washington County roughly a year and a half ago. I mean, there's challenges. I mean, there's threats. We get threatened with violence from time to time.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you for your service. Thank you, sir.
There's always, in corrections, there's times you're threatened every day, so.
Senator, I just want to follow up on that original question that you asked, and I do appreciate the question. I want to be clear. I'm not questioning the authenticity or whatever, or the of the physical writer per se. What I'm saying is just of what that note represents is what our exposure is as a potential liability, right? As Anna said before, if everyone retired and everybody came back and took these jobs, right? And so that is a plausible, possible situation, but not reality, okay? And so what I'm challenged with that physical note is, I bet if we went back and look, when we made that exception a couple years ago for corrections as a whole, or just corrections by themselves, to be able to retire and go back just to corrections, and as we've seen, I think the physical note says 5 people have done that. I bet that physical note years ago had a multi-million-dollar exposure as well, because it would also do the same assumption that everyone would retire and everyone would come back. And what I'm challenging is the reality of what happens in the real world versus what the note is potentially projecting is not accurate. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to the writer. It's just the reality of what we've actually seen happen to what that exposure could be. So I just want to clarify that.
Much, but we all have to play by those rules for all of the pieces of legislation that get brought forward, and they all are functioning in that way.
Right.
And so that's all that I'm trying to.
Understood.
All of them were done that way. Everything that we bring forward is judged in that same manner. And that goes just across the board.
Right.
And that's that's all I was trying to.
I look forward to continuing the conversation with
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, panel. If there are no further questions, I think we're going to skip 734 for the moment and move to SB 748, Senator McKay, Correctional Officers Retirement System, Allegheny County.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, committee. Senator Mike McKay here to present Senate Bill 748. Brevity is respect in action. So therefore, Senate Bill 748 just ensures that local detention center officers in Allegheny County will become members of the correctional officer retirement system if Allegheny County opts to participate. This will provide a clear pathway for transferring service credit from the employee's pension system to CORES, aligning benefits with specialized nature of correctional work. Recruitment, retainment, aligning Allegheny County with statewide standards only strengthens our workforce. There is no additional burden to the state pension system. Just allows us to govern, transfer and govern existing statutes, ensuring fiscal integrity. And at the end of today, listening to everything that you've discussed in this, you all just don't fix pensions, you fix them with responsible legislation. So with that, I'll take any questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your testimony. Does anyone on the committee have any questions for the senator? Sure.
How does it work when you write your own letter of support for your county? Since you're by yourself.
Well, we have a committee, me, myself, and I. There is
That's
debate.
a quorum.
I'm just saying.
There's debate.
I mean, I know you, so I would imagine that there could be some debate in there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
The question is, and I haven't had Dia Daly question it yet, is how those debates follow in the sunshine laws.
There we go.
So-
There we go.
I would remind the committee that this bill is very similar to the Dorchester local bill that we just passed within the past 2 weeks.
I'd like to be part of that debate.
Thank you for your testimony. Seeing
you, Madam
there's
Chair.
no further questioning, we will move to SB 930, Senator Harris, State Police Retirement System Special Disability Retirement.
Great morning, Madam Chair, this awesome subcommittee. I appreciate the time. For the record, Senator Kevin M. Harris representing Legislative District 27, which is Prince George's, Charles, and Calvert County. Here to present Senate Bill 930, State Police Retirement System, Special Disability Retirement. Senate Bill 930 addresses a narrow but serious inequity affecting certain retirees of the Maryland State Police. Under current law, Deferred Retirement Option Program, better known as DROP, participants may only qualify for special disability retirement if the disability injury occurs after entering the DROP. That rule unintentionally excludes officers who were injured while on duty before entering the DROP, whose injuries resulted in physical or mental and compelling retirement. Senate Bill 930 provides a limited, responsible remedy. It allows a clearly defined group of Maryland State Police retirees to apply for special disability retirement. The bill applies only to individuals who enrolled and dropped on or after July 1st, 2020, who had prior work-related injuries, who ceased participation in drop before July 1st, 2026. If further requires medical certification by the retirement system medical board, ensuring that only those who truly and permanently incapacitated qualified. Importantly, this legislation is temporarily and tightly bound. Senate Bill 930 takes effect on July 1st, 2026 and sunsets on December 31st, 2026, and requires eligible individual to apply within that 6-month period. This is not an expansion of benefits for future employees, nor is it an open-ended fiscal commitment. It is a corrective measure designed to resolve a particular set of cases fairly and finally. At its core, Senate Bill 930 is about honoring our commitment to the dedicated men and women of the Maryland State Police who sustain injuries while protecting our state. We should not allow our retirement system to deny them appropriate disability protection because of a procedural technicality. I respectfully ask the committee for a favorable report on Senate Bill 930, and thank you for your consideration. And I turn it over to my panel.
Good morning. I was a Maryland State Trooper for 24 and a half years. I was working in overtime assignment. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Eric White.
I'm sorry, could you state your name, because I don't have you on the sign-up list?
I apologize. Eric White.
Okay.
I was a Maryland State Trooper for 24 and a half years. I was retired a first sergeant. I have 2 sons on the job currently. I was working an overtime assignment March 6, 2020, and I was hit in my driver door by a driver that was 2.5 times the legal limit. Long story short, I had to have a shoulder surgery, which resulted in my not being able to continue my time with the Maryland State Police and not being able to continue my time in the drop. It was very rough because the injury, I actually still have to have a second surgery from this accident, but financially, very, very difficult. It's a big difference from 66 2/3 tax-free to a normal retirement, which I did not expect to be receiving. So it was my situation was unique because the HR director led me to believe and sent me an email saying that if I got in the drop and I still had to have surgery, I would get medical retirement and I would still receive whatever drop benefits up to that month that I would get. And it was incorrect. So I applied for my medical retirement and was turned down. So that's kind of the way that it went down. And I would just love to get a medical retirement because I feel my dedication to the Maryland State Police for 24 and a half years was strong. And, you know, I have a legacy of sons now that are doing it. And I just appreciate your time today.
Thank you for your testimony. Senator Bailey.
So I just wanted to say thank you very much, First Sergeant, for your commitment to the state. But I just wanted to clarify just a couple points so I understood it. Sorry, I had stepped out of the room for a minute. You actually retired and went in the drop.
Yes.
And then you were working in drop capacity, and you got injured. Explain to me how. Explain to me just the particulars here, because I'm trying to read it and I don't quite understand the exact.
No problem at all. I was in my accident was March 6, 2020.
Okay.
I was actually completely off work for 3 months, and I knew I wanted to get in the drop July 1st, 2020. So I started asking the questions that needed to be asked. Hey, I'm still under doctor's care, and I'm still going through rehabilitation. If for some reason, you know, I have something that disables me, like a shoulder surgery, because my shoulder was not good. can I still get a medical if I get in the drop on July 1st, 2020? And that's when the HR director said, yes, you can, and put it in writing and told me and convinced me. Because the reality of the situation is, if I would have known that I was going to get a normal retirement, I would have never entered the drop, because the difference in pay with a medical retirement is huge.
Understand. You probably heard, I had a bill here earlier about it. I understand your situation. Okay, so you were injured, then you went into the drop.
Yes, sir.
And then you came back and said, hey, wait, I should have got an injury disability. Right, I got it.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
Thank
you
you.
for your service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Senator Heddleman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is it, as best we can tell, is this the only person, are you the only one that this will apply to?
Yeah, pretty much from what we can tell at the moment, yes.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions for this panel? Thank you for your testimony. I'd like to call up Ms. Gothrop. I understand you have some concerns. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Ann Gothrop. I'm here on behalf of the Board of Trustees for the State Retirement and Pension System in opposition of Senate Bill 930. As you're aware, as you just heard, this legislation would allow a retiree, an individual who's retired from the state police plan currently receiving a service retirement allowance, to now apply for a line of duty disability. Additionally, Senate Bill 930 provides that if the retiree is awarded a line of duty disability, they shall receive a retroactive lump sum benefit back to their date of retirement equal to what they would have received had they been awarded a line of duty disability, less any benefits they had received under their service retirement allowance. We are very concerned at the agency that without a private letter ruling from the IRS that would approve this retroactive provision, it could jeopardize the system's tax qualified status. We have looked at previous private letter rulings on similar issues like this that the IRS has taken on, and they have not approved any of those instances. So we think this bill has a very high risk of not being approved by the IRS. We also want to let you know, in answer to your question, Senator Heddleman, we are only aware of one individual under the constraints of the bill. And as this agency and the committee have discussed in the past, we could not find in his file any instance of a mistake that was made or misinformation that was given. So certainly if there is an email out there, we have not seen this email. So we would like to, we would certainly welcome seeing it. That being said, because there is only one person, the fiscal note is, that we are aware of, the fiscal note is correct in that the cost is indiscernible to the system. However, I want to point out, as I do with these bills, there are over 150,000 retirees currently across all systems who are receiving service retirement allowances. Any one of them now, if this bill is passed, this opens the door to any one of them coming in and saying, I would like legislation to allow to apply for a service or line of duty disability, and if I'm awarded, have that converted to a tax-free 66 2/3 benefit. If that were to happen, as I tell you on previous bills, this impact to the system would not be de minimis in that case. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions? Thank you. We have one more bill, that's SB 734, State Retirement and Pension System eligible government units. I was going to suggest you stay seated. Thank you. Because I believe you're the only person signed up for this.
That's crazy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I, again, Ann Gothrop here on behalf of the Board of Trustees for the State Retirement and Pension System. in support of Senate Bill 734. So over the interim, this is joint committee legislation. Over the interim, the agency received numerous questions from counties and municipalities who were joining the LEOP saying, hey, if we come in, do we have to bring in all of our law enforcement, or can we just bring in this particular group or this particular rank? And we got this question so many times, you have to bring them all in. So we got this question so many times that we thought it would be helpful if we clarified in the law that when a group comes in, a new entrant joins, and not just in LEOPs and correctionals, also in the employee system, if you're bringing your group in, the whole group is coming in. You're not going to pick and choose who can come in. So that's the first part of the bill. And then the second part was, we were also made aware over the interim that potential new entrants to the employees, correctional, and law enforcement officer system, they were confused by existing statutory provisions that require forms, the forms that must be completed and submitted by the new entrant before they're joining. Specifically, the questions came up as to whether all employees of a new entrant are required to submit their election form stating whether they want to join the system or not. So existing law says that for eligible new entrants, if the employer does not submit all of the necessary documents on or before July 1st of when they're going to join, then they can't join. They're going to have to postpone their joining the system until the following July 1st when we do get all of those forms. We think it would be helpful to clarify that for employees who have election rights to join the systems, that necessary documentation includes a properly completed election form for each individual. And then we believe also by requiring this form to be completed, it will avoid confusion in the future for members who may come back and say, they changed their mind and claimed they never did receive this election form. And we also think it will help us and our board and all of you in the future in those instances if someone were to come forward and say we never received it. So those are the two existing provisions of the bill. And I want to mention briefly that since we put this bill in, since we requested the joint committee put it in, it is a clarification bill. And so we were hoping we could ask for a few more technical clarifying amendments, and I can go through them briefly now if you'd like.
Sure.
The first would be having to do with the participating governmental units. We have in the past, when groups have come in, they always say, do we have to pay, the employer says, do we have to pay for 100% of the service for the individuals who are coming in? So if I were with a town that wanted to join and I had 10 years, the employer could say, we really can only afford to pay 50% of my 10 years. So I'd get 5 and I'd lose the other 5. When this has happened in the past, afterwards, the employees come forward, they've lost this service that they actually worked, and to get it back, they have to pay for it, and it's very expensive. So we really want to say, going forward, if you're going to join and you have to pay for 100%, you cannot take service away from people that they've earned. So that would be our first amendment. The second amendment has to do with when I was just talking about the election forms. What we would also like to have included in there is that the employer has to certify to us that they have submitted, that they have given all of their employees these election forms. So it's not just, oh, you have to do this. We want some sort of documentation that this has actually happened. And if it's all right with you, Senator Bailey, I have been talking to Senator Bailey about this bill along those lines. He is also concerned about, well, what if they don't actually submit the election forms? You can't, if they say, no, we're just not submitting it, rather than have that be the impetus for stopping the entire group from being able to join for another year. In talking with Senator Bailey, we were thinking an amendment could be that if you really are not going to submit the form, then the law is going to default you into joining the system. So, and we have default provisions elsewhere in the law that if you don't submit a form, we're going to assume you made this decision. So this would not be inconsistent with that. It would just add teeth to, please submit your forms, we need your forms. Did I explain that?
That's perfect.
And then 2 other amendments that don't have to do with our participating governmental units. Last year, when you all included lump sum payments from the local jurisdictions for the unfunded liability in the teacher system. You're familiar with that provision. It was in the BRFA last year. Additional funds were put on the locals to pay. The penalty provisions that were included for those payments to be made were mirrored off of existing law. However, when the drafting happened, they left out the actual interest rate for the penalty. And so we're asking to amend that to clarify that it is the same interest rate that is in the existing provision that it was mirrored off of last year. So that it would not be a different interest rate, it would be conforming to pretty much existing statute. And then the last one is a very technical amendment. When we bill our employers, state and local employers, there's a provision in the law that says we bill the state employers on April 16th, and that's because that's after the session has ended and the budget has been introduced and passed, and it's all set. Local employers, though, it says we have to bill them on April 1st. We would like to move that April 1st up to April 16th. So we're billing everyone on the same date after the session is over and we know what the budget is. Whew, okay, that's everything.
Thank you for that elaborate explanation. Are there any questions? $7:34. Yeah. Okay. No more questions. Okay, let's have a conversation about this committee's will in terms of these bills and whether you feel they're ready to move forward to the full committee versus perhaps more research and investigation. The first one, 647. I didn't think there were any concerns about that. Anyone?
So I can actually say that we worked on this all last summer with the council, and I think from what I know through the IRS, that the work that we have put together here, especially his work and Ann's, they are looking at the fact that this would be the model to use across the country. So yes, I think we have really moved in a very good direction with this, and all that being said, I'd move favorable.
Thank you for your work. Is everyone in agreement?
There is a technical amendment, as the sponsor indicated, in the drafting, we left out a provision. So in towards the end of the bill, I believe this is the state police provision. The standard is that you are injured in the actual performance of duty. And I think when we were making some changes on the markup, the clause actual performance of duty was left out in one place. So the amendment corrects that to add it back in so that it's consistent with everything.
So we'll move the amendment and the bill forward to the full committee. Everyone's fine with that? Okay, next one, SB 654. I thought the senator made a great argument for retention, an employment scarcity issue, and I thought that far outweighed concerns about age. Anyone have a different opinion on that? 60 is the new 40.
There was, Madam Chair, there was one piece that was mentioned about the impact on the drop. I did just want to
Right.
clarify. The
Yes,
bill does
please.
include, and this is standard provisions that we include whenever there's legislation impacting the drop. So there was a clause that any existing drop participants, to the extent the additional 2 years would allow them to continue participating in drop, the bill does provide an avenue for current drop participants to extend drop within the parameters of total drop participation.
Okay, everyone in agreement? We can move this forward to the full committee? Thank you. Good. Next bill, SB 7.
Sorry, there was, I think, a technical amendment needed also on that one. I can get that to you all.
On 654?
On 654, yeah.
Okay. SB 710. As of yesterday, we didn't have the fiscal note. So the bill sounded good till we got the fiscal note. I think we have some additional issues to resolve. Is everyone in agreement with that perception? I was okay yesterday till I saw the fiscal note. More conversation? Senator Bailey?
I agree. I know that, some years ago when we did the first part of this, we saw that same style of, note. And, but the reality is, in all seriousness, most people are not going back to do that line of work. In this situation, he went back because, just like he said, the bailiff's job is a Monday through Friday, weekends off situation. So he left shift work to go to be able to do it. So for me, I think it's a good idea. I see it exercised and knowing, I still play in that law enforcement community, and I see that, if we did hire a new employee to fill that vacancy, the expense for the state is very much higher. And then if anything happens to that employee, then the expense for the state is compounded multiple times. If I was running a business and this was the best, and I needed an employee, this is like getting an hourly employee that has all the experience that you'd ever need, right? So from my perspective, I think this is a win-win when it looks, if I was looking at it for the monetary value of what we could get for these employees to be working in a courthouse, to have the right demeanor, they know exactly what is expected. That's just my 2 cents on this. So if the committee would like to, we can keep discussing it. And
Okay, thank you. The next bill, SB 734, thought there was a very compelling case for that. Obviously, there are about 4 amendments, some of which are technical. But assuming we have those amendments, I think this bill makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And SB 748, a local bill that seems to have unanimous support from the delegation. Thank you. Move forward. And our final bill, SB 930. Thought I heard a lot of issues with that, and it only applies to one person. So I have some concerns. Any different opinions?
We can discuss that also, maybe we can talk about, because it is a situation that can happen again.
Right. Okay. Senator Bailey.
so thank you. And what I just say is we've had this happen. We have it happen every year. We have individuals that come in. Absolutely, this would open Pandora's box, just to say. But at the same time, if, I expressed to the senator when he was leaving, if his constituent has a letter from the state police that says, absolutely, you could do this because he'd already been injured, obviously, we would want to get that to Ann and monitor the situation. But right now, I think we should just hold this bill and work and see how it goes.
Thank you. I think we seem to be unanimous on that. That concludes our, Senator Salings.
You got with me on the floor about my bill, which was Senate Bill 481. We're working on the amendment as you discussed with me.
Right.
And we're getting that done now.
Okay.
I just want to make sure when I do get that, I'll be able to send it to you.
Sure.
To make sure that it's exactly what you were talking about, if that's okay?
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you on the floor. Thanks for.